is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to Chaotic Risk Magazine. And this is for our On the Record segment, and we're talking with Tony Montanna, the guitar player from Jack Russell's Great White. It's great to be talking to you again, Tony. And tonight we're going to be talking to you about Led Zeppelin 3, because a lot of musicians have been making these like top 10, top 20 album lists, and you were mentioning to me that Led Zeppelin 3 was an album you wanted to talk about. So I guess to start off the interview, let's talk a little bit about why that album means so much to you.
Well, anyways, first, hey, good to be here again, and thanks for being understanding.
Yeah, these things happen. Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, is there's a little problem day. We're supposed to do the interview earlier, but it worked out for the better, and we're doing it now.
It all falls together.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I discovered this album as a kid, as kind of a smaller kid.
Uh-huh.
I think I maybe was around 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
My parents had, as many folks of my age, and maybe their parents at that time, had what we'll call a console, right? Like a stereo console. Like
Turntable.
Well, this thing that my parents had was like the tip-top technology thing at the time. It had a turntable, and it had a receiver, right?
Okay.
AM/FM receiver, and it had an 8-track.
Ah, wow.
An 8-track player in it, and so it's funny, of all things, right? Like
yeah.
My parents, when they got this thing, I guess they got like this assortment of albums from all different kinds of genres, like country and rock,
and
cool, whatever, right? And classical music, right?
Yeah.
So as a kid, I'm just going through these cassettes, these big old 8-track cassettes.
Yeah.
And so I took the rock one, and it had a bunch of albums in there. I can't remember what the other ones were, quite frankly. And this one, when I'm listening through it as a kid, you're curious, right?
What is this?
And so I'm just listening through, and that thing comes on.
Yeah.
And I think the back of my head blew off.
Yeah.
As a child.
Yeah.
And I was musically interested at the time.
Wow.
I maybe was playing even just a little bit of whatever, piano or whatever as a child. So I was interested. And as soon as I heard that, I think literally the back of my head blew off. I just was like, wow, what the fuck is this? Yeah. So that intro to the band, you hear that track and there's something very primal about that song, right? So it just reached deep into me, right?
Yeah.
And then the next song, well, actually, I'm going to tell you, I'm not sure what the tracking order was on the 8-track tape, because it would have been different than what the album is. But I do remember the Immigrant Song very specifically, right? Yeah. So I just sat with this album and just played it in a loop for I can't even tell you how long. I just played it and played it and played it. And over time, obviously there were tracks that just stuck with me. I do a little acoustic thing where I put up like a 1-minute pieces of songs. I call them little ditties.
Okay.
It's on my YouTube, my Shadow and the Thrill YouTube channel. And if anybody's, whoever's listening, please do check out Shadow and the Thrill. It's my band that I
and I'll tell people, for anybody who knows anything about Tony, he's not just a great bass player. He's a multi-instrument guitar player, and on Shadow and the Thrill, he's also the lead singer.
Yeah, I sing on that, and that, and my friend Brent Arshman is playing drums, and he's doing keys on that album. So we're real proud of it. The album's called Sugar Bowl, but we do have a YouTube channel, Chat on the Thrill, on YouTube there, and obviously a Facebook page too. But I do these little 1 minute video acoustic just noodling thing where I'll sing a little bit, play a little bit. And I covered the other song on that album, which really spoke to me, which is a song called Friends.
Wow.
Which is it is a really dark piece of music. It's very acoustic, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a string section on it too, I think. And it's a very dark piece of music. It's an acoustic drone thing, and I was really drawn to that song as well. And I even do a little bit of it on acoustic on my little ditties. And quite frankly, it's not one of the more popular ones that I did.
It's funny. It's funny you say that, Tony, because I'll tell you. In preparation for this, I got online last night. I was listening to some of the songs that I wasn't as familiar with. Obviously, who hasn't heard Since I've Been Loving You or Gallows Pole or even Celebration Day? But I seen the track Friends. I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm not familiar with this song. Let me give this a listen, kind of see what this song is all about. And that's kind of the cool thing in doing this and getting doing research for it tonight is I'm kind of a casual I'm not what I call a diehard Zeppelin fan, but when it comes to some of the bigger hits, let's say Whole Lot of Love or even Rock and Roll or Stairway to Heaven, okay, those are songs I'm familiar with, and a lot of these songs on this album, I got to be honest, I never even of course the Immigrant Song and like I said Gallows Pole, I've heard those, but the song Friends, I kind of put it on you know what, wow, how have I not heard this all these years of being alive? And I thought, wow, it's like discovering a great new piece of music.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that you got introduced to it this way, right? It happens to me all the time too, right? I'll just all of a sudden I'll find something. Especially these days, you find something, you go down a rabbit hole and find stuff online that you never knew existed, and then you become a fan.
Yeah.
And I found some other bands online just like that. But that song, Friends, it's a very unusual guitar tuning as well. Once I learned, later on in life, I decided to learn how to try to play it. It's an open C chord tuning. It's a really odd piece of music. But that song definitely drew me in. And even as a child, I fell in love with Since I've Been Loving You.
Wow, yeah. That's a great.
As blues oriented as it is, as out of the realm of a child.
Yeah.
That the subject matter is. I mean, the subject matter is heavy. It's about relationships, about women.
Yeah, and the interesting thing.
Around, whatever it is about, right? It spoke to me even as a child. Something about it really got me too. So
it's interesting. Over the years, I've heard the guys do interviews, and I've read about Zeppelin music. A lot of early Zeppelin stuff was based on simple blues, and then as they progressed, listening to this album online for the first time, from top to bottom. Okay, a lot of these songs, like I said, I've never heard, and then when you realize later, okay, songs like Whole Lot of Love, Rock and Roll, and all the big, even Stairway to Heaven. Okay, when you think, okay, they later became known for these big bombastic songs, but yet it started out more blues based, and even this album, you got tracks like the Immigrant Song and Gallows Pole, but for the most part, they're not songs that really beat you over the head.
Right. This is, and from what I've heard, this is Jimmy Page's favorite Zeppelin album. And and I always look to it and I think, why is that? Why does this touch? Why is this part of? Why does he feel this really speaks? Mm-hmm. and maybe it's because of those things. There's definitely a darkness to it. There's a organic, acoustic vibe about it. For the most part, it is a very acoustic-y Led Zeppelin album. But I loved Friends, and I did a little cover of that. And Since I've Been Loving You always spoke to me. And then, of all things, I ended up doing that in my first run with Great White in 1987 on the road. And, to be part of that with the band, and Jack just did such an amazing job of it back in that day. This is before we did Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You on MTV.
Yeah.
This was live at the Ritz in New York.
Oh, wow.
And I remember us doing that song, and they play it on the radio here, at least here in Los Angeles, here in California, and people would call in and ask, "Is this a live
album
recording of Led Zeppelin? New recording of Led Zeppelin doing the song?"
Wow!
It just sounds so much like Plant. It's really amazing. So I always loved the fact that it kind of came full circle for me. I ended up playing that with Great White.
Yeah.
Of course, at that time, I was playing bass with the band.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that now. Like, people from when you first joined the band, they know you as a bass player. Like I said, you're multi-instrument, you play other instruments. But like, talk a little bit about this album and getting into Led Zeppelin. How big of an influence was John Paul Jones on your playing?
Well, I'll be honest. He's absolutely, he's amazing. Just like all the other three are amazing. And I like the fact that he was a multi-instrumentalist guy too. Obviously, he's doing keys
and stuff,
and playing, mandolin and whatever else he does with the band. But I don't know if his bass playing directly influenced me. I'm sure it indirectly influenced me just because I've just always loved the band, and his interpretation of how a bass should sit in a song and what its job is. I really love that aspect of what he does. In that he's playing bass more the way a blues guy or an R&B guy would play bass. He's all over the place. Mm-hmm. He's taking up some space, and in a power trio, at a live respect, the bass player needs to do that. Yeah. And later on in the 80s, the genre that I'm most
familiar with,
identified with.
Yeah.
The bass was relegated to kind of a different part of the mix, and even in modern music in general, the bass now is relegated to a different part of the mix. It's delegated to a sub part of the mix, subwoofer almost part of the mix, subsonic, where it's more supporting the bass drum and the lower end of things because since the 60s and 70s, stereo equipment was able to reproduce those low sub frequencies, and that's how producers started moving. I like bass from the 70s, 60s, 70s, because those bass lines are moving around. They're moving around. They're outlining chords, and obviously John Paul Jones was doing that. He's just what a monster, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I really, honestly didn't really appreciate that. I had to learn a couple of Zeppelin tunes. I did a stint with Slash, just a short stint with him on the road.
Wow.
In Asia, in Australia, and we did Communication Breakdown.
Oh, cool! What a cool song! Yeah, that's another great one.
And I think we probably did. I'm sure we probably did Immigrant Song too. and then once you're learning as an older guy, as a more experienced player, you go back and you're listening and you're trying to play what John Paul Jones really played. It's like, damn, you know.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is, I've always heard people refer to John Paul Jones as kind of Zeppelin's kind of secret weapon or secret ingredient.
Oh, totally.
Absolutely. In the sense that when a lot of people talk about Zeppelin, naturally, first two guys they talk about is Plant and Page, and then obviously even John Bonham was just over the top bombastic, and so even the drummer got a little more attention than the bass players. But it's kind of interesting,
He's kind of he is
secret guy.
Totally the secret weapon.
Yeah,
and a lot of bass players in bands are that. Duff McKagan is Guns N' Roses' secret weapon.
Yeah.
He is the glue, and the bass player in so many bands is that person. It is a big responsibility. People don't realize it's the biggest one of the biggest responsibilities in the band with the least amount of adulation.
Yeah, the cool thing about a guy like Duff is he's obviously got the talent, but he also knows his place. I mean, he's one of those guys like you that he can kind of do it all. He's gone off and done his solo thing, but he kind of knows, I'm going to make a better living doing the Guns N' Roses thing. So, okay, I'm back with Axl now. Whereas, he could be doing this solo thing because he can play bass, he can play guitar, he can kind of do it all. But he's kind of, found this is like where I really belong.
Well, you depending on what music you're doing, or you're writing, or you're recording, you play what speaks to you at the moment. And sometimes, I'll be honest, on my own album, on Shadow and the Thrills, Sugar Bowl, the most fun I had tracking was definitely when I was tracking my bass parts, because I didn't have to
think about it too much. Yeah.
I didn't have to think about it so much. It really is a feel thing, and you know what? If you play the wrong thing on a bass, you know it. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it, man. So,
and then on that note,
you got to get it right. So
and on that note, there's also like other guys like, let's say like Nikki Sixx or Jason Newsted from Metallica. They play more like a guitar player, if you know what I mean. But they definitely got a talent to do what they do, and people definitely take notice.
Well, they're outlining the structure of the song more so than outlining the chordal, the chordal, the harmonics of a song, the chords. So it's just a different mentality, and it changed in the 70s, 60s and 70s, and the 80s. It's changed, at least for rock. It did. You can go back and listen. One of my favorite bands to listen to the bass lines is the Doobie Brothers.
Oh no,
because
no doubt.
That guy, he's never playing what you think. The bass occupies a much different part of the mix. It occupies a melodic part of the mix. It's a voice. It's moving. It's counterpoint to other things that are happening in the song. So
you know what I tell you, Doobie Brothers. I'm glad you brought that up because that's another one of my favorite bands. And what I love about the band is, they got everything. Like you take a song like "Listen to the Music." That's pretty much an upbeat rock song, and then you got like "Blackwater." But if you got the Doobie Brothers' greatest hits, I mean, every song sounds a little different. And the Doobie Brothers, it's a bunch of white guys, but you close your eyes for a minute and you'd swear it was an R&B group. But they're just great at what they do, And that's
and the truth is, Zeppelin, a lot of what we're talking about here on this album, right, and is the grooves and the bass lines are very much like R&B. Listen to the end of, and Dickie, my drummer in Jack Russell's Great White, Dickie Fleazar is a great drummer. He pointed out this out to me the other day. He goes, listen to the groove, the end of Stairway to Heaven. Here's the greatest rock song of all time. Listen to the groove, the drums, and what's going on there in the bass. That groove, that's an R&B groove. That's like shuffly kind of, Motown-y kind of groove if you think about it.
Yeah.
It's just in a rock band. So, I'm at that point. It's not lost on me.
And it's
the
funny.
Other songs on 3 that really spoke to me too. I always loved "Out on the Tiles," which I think is like a forgotten Led Zeppelin nugget.
Yeah.
Like it's a rock song, but he's singing so high on it, it's ridiculous. But that's a great one. "Celebration Day," another great, like, singable, poppy almost.
And the cool thing about Celebration Day is when they got back together and did that reunion, I think it was 2010 or something like that, and they had Jason Bonham they went to London and they filmed a live DVD of it, and they called the album Celebration Day. And that, again, I thought was cool for a simple fact is I've heard Celebration Day, and it's not one of those tracks you hear all the time on the radio. And like, even listening to it to prepare for the interview we're doing now, I listened to it again and thought, what a cool track. I just don't understand why that wasn't a bigger hit,
This is this album is I think their sleeper in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
There's another one. Another one's a very, like, country-ish, very pop sounding song, "Tangerine."
Oh, I love that. I love that song. Yeah, that's another one of those.
It's great.
Yeah, like I hadn't heard that in years.
That one, and then "Run Your Stomp."
Yeah.
Is super, super interesting, right? It just is what it is. Hats off to Roy Harper. Is obviously kind of one of those ones. Those are the songs that I think turned off Led Zeppelin people, or the light Led Zeppelin listeners back whenever this album came out. They expected another Led Zeppelin 2. They expected something that was still, more heavy or whatever. And then they came out with this, which is smart of them at the end of the day, because the band grew, I think, probably from doing this album. That's the way. I think that's the way it might be out of all the tracks, that might be my least favorite. Not that I don't like it, but it's my least favorite on the track.
I think what people like, I have to include myself here. What a lot of people like about that track is, even though it's not a bombastic, real heavy song, it's kind of got the Robert Plant attitude vibe, going in it.
Oh, sure. He's singing his ass off. It's amazing. Right? Like anything on here, it's all amazing. But
and I think, so come to find out, Tony, surprisingly, among Zeppelin fans, like you said, this isn't maybe as popular of an album, but yet at the same time, like, it's one of those albums that people just who've heard it love. Like, I reached out to this other musician about doing an interview about his favorite album, and he's kind of a diehard Zeppelin fan, and I was sharing him, that I'm going to be interviewing Tony Montanna, and we're going to interview him about Led Zeppelin 3. That's his favorite album. And I said, but if you want to discuss that same album, that's fine, because we're going to talk about how it influenced you. And he was telling me, well, I love Led Zeppelin 3. He said, but he goes, I'm kind of tired of hearing that album. He goes, because I just play it all the time. I've kind of almost gone. He says, but I'll tell you the album I want to talk about. He says, I want to talk about In Through the Outdoor. So that's what we're going to talk to him about.
Yeah. And see, there's another. Now, the truth is, and I think about this, maybe the reason this is my favorite is because it was my introduction to the band.
Oh, yeah, most likely.
If Led Zeppelin 2 was sitting in that collection of cassettes, that would be my favorite, probably. Or Physical Graffiti or whatever. Right?
Even Physical Graffiti, it's so hard to believe that album recently celebrates like its 40th anniversary. That's how old this music is that we're talking about. Oh, yeah.
And it's, my kids, I have 20-somethings, and they just, they all gravitate towards this music, and, And I like the fact that they take cues from me. I've never forced them on anything on them, but they've dug through my.
See, that's the cool thing. Going through Dad's collection, and they kind of discovered it. And to me, that's always been the thing about really how you value if something's really a great piece of music or not, or a great song, because like even 40 years later, we're talking about Led Zeppelin, and the music's still just as good as when it came out. and like you said, they've got I mean, they've got people just discovering the music, like you said, like your kids they're just discovering it, and it's that good, and you know, I mean, this is why like if you remember, Tony, like back when the grunge bands were first breaking out, and you had all the Nirvanas and the Pearl Jams, and then record companies were dropping, you know, all the hair bands, and they're just signing nothing but grunge band, you know, bands that sound like Alice in Chains. Well, after a while of that, eventually grunge wasn't as popular as it once was, and that's because, you know, when you're just signing bands that are, you know, it's the trend of a month or everybody's sounding the same. Eventually, people get tired of that. But you know, Alice in Chains, like we're talking about, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, those bands they had a little bit of substance. That's why they're still kind of popular today. But if you're just like a cookie cutter band, people aren't going to be listening to you 40 years down the line. You know.
Yeah, obviously there's some good stuff that's within each of those bands' catalogs, and I think the one that I see lasting for a real long time is Alice in Chains. I really like. I think there's plenty of substance there, and not that I'm not a. I think that as a hard rock guy, I think a lot of hard rock people were more easily attuned to Alice in Chains.
Yeah, see, Alice in Chains to me almost had kind of a Sabbathy vibe, especially with the original singer. And the odd thing is, they've been able to carry on with the new singer, William DeVoe. He's a great singer in his own right. Most people, they do kind of gravitate towards the original lineup. But the interesting thing, I think Alice in Chains has been able to carry on because not only is Jerry Cantrell a great songwriter, but even though they got a new singer, he's able to sing the classic stuff as well as the newer stuff and kind of bring something to the table as well, you know?
That's what I've heard, and, you know, kudos to them. And yeah, I think Jerry's great. His songwriting ideas, he's great, you know, great vocalist in his own right, too.
Yeah.
A lot of the music, a lot of the songs that you hear from that band, those guys are doing, you know, they're doing vocal in unison, or he's doing a harmony line with Lane Staley.
I mean, if you listen to, I really strongly urge people to check out not just Alice in Chains, but Jerry's solo stuff he's put out. Because, like you said, he's a great singer in his own right, and even a lot of like if you listen to Alice in Chains Unplugged, that CD, I mean, you can hear, like you said, what a powerful background vocalist he is. I mean, especially when Lane Staley was still around, those two guys, the voices just meshed so well.
Oh, exactly. The blend of it is pretty magical, and you know that's part of the luck of it all, right? It's part of the magic of it.
Kind of like they say, Michael Anthony is the background sound of Van Halen. Definitely he is. My God. But that's how important guys like that are, you know.
Oh, totally. And there's another bass player guy. Totally just kind of not getting his due, but he's just amazing. It's he's something else.
Yeah.
Something else.
Yeah. That's
and that bass, and even in that band, I would say he's still adhering to more of a 70s-ish approach, where he's playing a lot of melodic lines.
Yeah.
And he's taking up a lot of space.
Yeah.
He needs to. It's a power trio.
Yeah.
He needs to take up space. I love bass players like that. And on my better days playing bass, like there's a couple of tracks on my album Sugar Bowl where I think I had a couple of nice bass moments. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of bass player that I wish I was all the time.
Yeah.
The guys that can do that really can outline the chords and follow the song and make it a melodic instrument, not just a subwoofer bang along with the bass drum instrument. You know, I always really, really appreciate those guys, and I love to have those guys play. When I do go out and play Shadow and Thrill, I love to have that kind of bass player out with me.
Wow.
Dan McNay, who plays with Jack Russell's Great White. He used to play with Ronnie Montrose.
Oh yeah.
He is one of those guys. I really I call him Dan, quote, the better bass player, unquote, McMahon. He always gets pissed at me because, he's playing a lot of my lines from Great White.
And I gotta ask you.
He does a great job. He does a great job with it, and sometimes even, he comes up with stuff I think is even better. So
yeah, I gotta ask you, Tony, how much fun is it playing that Ronnie Montrose event every year? Because I talked to Keith St. John, who's kind of an organizer and the guy that started it all, put it together, and he was telling me like he thought last year was going to be the last year they ever did, but then they did it again this year, which I thought was kind of cool because I think Ronnie Montrose is getting a lot more love, unfortunately since his passing, but a lot more people becoming aware of the man and his music, as opposed to just Montrose was just that first album. A lot more people becoming aware of the music since his passing, since they've been putting on that annual event. I think it's a great thing, to do every year.
Yeah, he was involved in a lot of other things other than just that big Montrose album.
Yeah.
He wrote things with other and produced with other artists. So, and he was an interesting guy from what I've learned through Dan. And Dan played with him for about 10 years.
Yeah.
So I did learn some interesting things about his approach to technology, to sound, and to sound reinforcement, and to the way the band sounded on stage. Not just his guitar sound.
Yeah.
He was kind of a 360 degree guy, which I really appreciate. Which is what I would like to be when I'm out with Shadow and the Thrill. That's the guy that I want to be, and
I'm a Montrose fan like anybody else, but I tell you, I was really surprised because one of my all-time favorite songs, classic rock songs, has always been "Free Ride." I was just blown away. Wow, that Ronnie Montrose is the guy playing guitar on that. Wow, but
right.
Yeah.
Well, these. There's a lot of places where somebody like him will pop up in a song that you just never expected. I'd encourage people that are interested in that kind of thing. Is the Mick Ronson documentary and outlines kind of how he really got screwed.
Oh yeah,
which is a sad thing. But the other things that he did after, working with Bowie and some of the places where you don't even realize you've been listening to his guitar playing,
Yeah, I mean, Bowie's another interesting cat, but he's helped a lot of players over here. Even somebody like Peter Frampton was huge in the 70s when that Frampton Comes Alive album came out, and then, his career kind of went down until David Bowie asked him to, I think it was like 1986 or 87, to join his band, and all of a sudden, Peter Frampton, had a career again.
Wow, and that you're touching on another guy. Just that's one of my other albums. I did get that challenge to
make a list of
do a list. Yeah, and it was, if it wasn't my childhood friend, his name's Ron Lopez. If it wasn't Ron, I probably wouldn't have done it, but he did, and so I said okay. And because I know that I have total ADHD, I'm just going to do five albums at a time. Yeah. And that way I'll make sure to get all 10 out, right? Because there's no way in 10 days, forget it.
It brings back great memories, though, talking about these, these albums and these musicians and stuff, and kind of what they mean to you.
Oh, for sure.
Because a lot of people, like, that aren't the same age as you and me, a lot of these kids today, they don't even know what a turntable, a record player, a record is. A record, what's that? Cassette, what's that? I mean, that's how crazy. I mean, a lot of kids these days, as you know, they just want everything instantly. I'll just get the latest download, or I'll just download the single. I don't need the whole album. I mean, I miss the days of, you even get these days, what's a record store? I miss the days of going to a record store, and it's very sad because even here in LA, that they had that Amoeba Music, but that's recently shut down, and so it's kind of sad. People don't have the same experience these days.
Well, I think there is a resurgence of vinyl right now.
Kind of interesting.
And vinyl seems to be actually outselling CDs, which
and
who would have saw that coming.
And the kicker about that, I've even talked to some people about that, and they tell me, I don't even have a turntable, but I'm buying more and more stuff on vinyl. I can't play it, just kind of it's for a collector's thing. And I'm thinking, wow, just sit and think about that, for a minute.
Oh, for sure. I know that at this point we're, for Shadow and the Thrill, for Sugar Bowl, we will put out vinyl on that, and I think the Jack Russell's the album we just did, the Once Bitten acoustic.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask you about that because I know that just came out. How's that been doing? How have people been responding to it?
People seem to be enjoying it. I just I got caught up a little bit today on doing some video, a little video capture for that. We're going to put out. I think it's going to be Fast Road.
Oh, cool.
Which is off the that Once Bitten album, and that thing it just is put out on vinyl as well. It's a cool package, and that's nice to have,
And let me ask you,
younger folks are discovering vinyl, and I don't have one yet. I don't have a turntable on myself anymore, but you know what? I want one.
One for your collection. I played on this, and I know that the acoustic Bits album just came out, and there's rumors. I don't know how true this is. There's rumors going around that you guys have been discussing the possibility maybe like putting out another type of acoustic album, but like for like doing a new acoustic album for maybe Hooked, the songs that were on Hooked. Any truth to that?
Well, it seems to be working. So I guess that we're all creatures of habit, and if it seems to work, don't fix it. So maybe
I think it's a cool idea.
Who knows? We may do a version of Twice Shy.
Oh, that's cool. Because
like an acoustic version cover of it. That would be smart. That would be a smart thing to do, probably.
Especially in this downtime when you guys aren't even allowed to go out and really perform live or anything. That's got to be killing you. But a lot of people are going online and doing these online performances. Have you guys given any thought to that?
We haven't talked about it
at length.
But, I have been approached to do. I do a Sunday. I was doing like a Sunday jam, reoccurring jam here in Orange County in California, and I was doing that, and we had one that was set for March 29th, and of course, all this craziness started, and we weren't able to do it. But the guys that reached out to me and want to try to do it at the end of this month, so
cool.
It's possible we might do it. We probably maybe we won't do it as a gathering, but we might do it as a live streaming thing. So we're looking forward to maybe doing that the end of this month.
And while I got you on the line, I also wanted to ask you. I don't know. I can't remember. I think it might have been on Sleaze Rock or something like that the other day. They were saying something about how the COVID-19 thing is kind of stopping the Jack Russell Band from working on the next studio album. How much truth is to that story, or where are you guys with that?
Well, we've been so concentrated on really getting the Once Bitten acoustic thing out and kind of supporting that. So I think we're probably going to concentrating on that for a little while.
Okay.
Funny enough, I did talk to Jack just today, and I went down my own rabbit hole over here where I went through all my old demos and little sketch pads of ideas and stuff, and I know he and I are going to get together. I'm going to lay some of those on him. So, the creative process, I think, is probably just starting to do that. So, and I'm looking forward to it. I think I wasn't really involved with the other album at all.
Yeah.
So, I think if we go about, we'll see how this one goes.
And definitely
maybe it'd be a different story this time around.
And definitely maybe the fact that you guys aren't able to go out and perform right now live. That'll give you more time to kind of get your creative juices going.
Yeah, right now we can't all get in the same room together. Basically. So, but as soon as I think that's that'll come. That'll come in the next couple months, and then we'll get back out there. Our dates, we still have dates pending in July that have been canceled. So.
Well, that's okay. Maybe now. Other thing I want to ask you about, when I last interviewed your bandmate Robbie Lochner, he was telling me, in addition to the acoustic album, I think he'd also mentioned something about after the acoustic album was released, you're also gonna have another release coming out soon. Like I think you said it was a Led Zeppelin kind of live tribute thing. Is that still in the works?
Yeah, I'm totally not involved with that.
Oh,
so
that's a totally separate
idea
issue.
what those guys are.
Okay, okay, we'll keep it at that. And we were talking about some of your favorite bass players. I gotta tell you, one of my all-time favorite guys that feels never really gets the dues is Tom Peterson from Cheap Trick.
Oh, yeah. Well, now there's a real interesting player too.
Yeah.
He's taking up space in a different way too, by the whole 12-string bass idea.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing's
amazing.
It's like a band on its own. It's really something else.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's one of my all-time favorites. I mean, Heavy Tonight is my top 10.
Oh yeah, that's right up there. Yeah, I think that's my all-time favorite Cheap Trick album. Actually, I go between that and maybe Dream Police, but I lean heavier towards, I think, Heaven Tonight.
Totally amazing songwriting song.
Yeah.
That is probably maybe my ultimate Deserted Island album. I can listen to that over and over and over.
Yeah, and even giving it an honorable mention, Dream Police. I gotta say, talking a little bit about Tom Peterson. Robin Zander is just a great lead singer, but I tell you, the song I really love on the Dream Police album is the one that actually Tom Peterson sings, which is "I Know What I Want," and it's kind of interesting because I've heard it all these years. I always thought Robin Zander was singing it because it kind of does sound a little like him. But then you read the credits. Oh no, that's Tom Peterson singing.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
He does it. He does the song live.
Yeah.
I saw them. Pretty maybe a year ago now. Yeah. They're great. They're great live, and actually I saw them twice. I saw them twice. Yeah, they're amazing, and I'm actually I met. I do have maybe a possible pending project where I might do something with Dax.
Rick's son. How
met
cool!
him at the NAMM show here this year, and we had talked about a couple of different things, and he's what a great addition to that band.
He seems like a cool guy. I mean, in the sense that
cool.
Just think about that story for a minute. I mean, you grow, you're Rick Nielsen's son. You grow up, and think how many times you must have seen the band live, and then you actually grow up and you become a band member, and you're up there playing with your dad. That's got to be just the ultimate.
That's pretty awesome. And what a band and what a catalog of songs to be able to get up there and work. Yeah. That's all good, all fun right there.
Before we wrap this up, Tony, I wanted to ask you, as far as getting back to Zeppelin now, I'd imagine, when 1980 rolled around and Bonham, dies, and you hear about news the very first time, and then the band decides we're breaking up. I mean, go back in time if you can. What was that? Do you remember that time, like learning that Led Zeppelin was no more? They were not going to be touring anymore.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where I was at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 1980. I'm 15. Right?
Yeah.
Am I 15?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, just
How old am I? Yeah, 15, I guess.
Okay.
I was in, and I remember the moment. I was in a band with some guys, and we were rehearsing, and their parents had this pretty spread out house, and they had this one huge room that was the music room, huge. And of course, there's a bunch of young guys. We were in there always goofing off and playing music and being loud, and And I remember holding the album and thinking that, wow, I can't believe it. That's it. Is that really it? Because I mean, we even at that age, I was, besides being a fan and growing up in my early musical taste, being and they're my heroes for sure. At that time, we'd play whatever Zeppelin tune here and there. It definitely was a huge
turning
pivot
point
in rock.
And you know, the thing about it too, when I think about it today is, you know, definitely they could have probably, I'm sure they could have easily replaced, you know, John Bonham and has since gotten somebody like Carmine Appice. But let's be honest about it. Even as great of a drummer as he might be, or anybody they would have gotten to replace Bonham, that guy would constantly be compared to Bonham. And I just think that, Robert Plant was right in that, you know, his heart just wasn't in it. You know, take one guy out of the band, it's just not the same.
Oh, I can't. Yeah. I think that the closest that they could have come is what they did do
with Jason.
Yeah. And that is actually a really wonderful. It is on YouTube.
Yeah.
I saw it the other day. The entire O2 Arena show, and it's really wonderful. And I think Jason does a wonderful job. I'd love to meet him. I've got we have a lot of friends in common, and I'm sure I'll end up, you know, meeting him at some point.
Well, you know, he's playing.
He did a great job.
Speaking of Michael Anthony, he's playing with Michael Anthony and Sammy Hagar in that band, The Circle, that they do now.
Right. So, and I was supposed to actually, you know, I was set last year. My band, Shadow and the Thrill, we were going to open up Sammy Hagar's show here on Lincoln Beach, and you know,
how cool that would have been.
Got canceled for other reasons. Not COVID-19. It was some other crazy stuff.
How cool that would have been. Wow, maybe.
I was looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, and you know, I just got to say that again, you know, speaking of the O2 Arena, like I said, if you get the live DVD, I think in the CD, it's called Celebration Day. And oddly enough, I'm sure living in Los Angeles, you've heard of the huge Led Zeppelin tribute we have out here called Led Zeppelin. I've interviewed the singer Swan Montgomery a couple of times, and he was sharing with me that actually when that show was going on, I think he said Jimmy Page was actually aware of Led Zeppelin, and they got invited to kind of, they flew Led Zeppelin over to London, and they got invited to hang with the band backstage because they were just so impressed with what a dead-on tribute, you know, Led Zeppelin again was. I mean, just think about that, you know, having that experience, you know.
Wow, they do a great job. There's so many now. These days, there are so many tribute bands and so many tribute acts. I have a friend of mine who plays in another one called Zeppelin. I think it's called Zeppelin USA.
Yeah.
And those guys are amazing. You know, what the benefit that these guys have that are doing a tribute like that is that the template's there, man. Yeah. You just have to recreate it as faithfully as possible.
Yeah, I like to call it rock and roll theater, and a band like Led Zeppelin, they've got it down, and it's amazing because I was interviewing him last year, and the bass player, I think is Jim Wooten. They both play in Led Zeppelin, and they're actually celebrating. Neither one of them has been with the band like for 30 years, but the band's celebrating their 30 years together. Just think about that.
That's awesome. You know, if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. Yeah. And I think these guys, you know, I'm sure they've had they've made a career out of it, which is, you know, how awesome is that to just be able to make a career out of, career in music is difficult enough. Trying to, you know, do it where you're writing the music and you're actually, you know, doing it yourself. If it's possible, you know, having an act like that and being able to enjoy being a music person and you know,
I imagine
without having to dive into the ugly part of the music business.
Before you wrap up, Tony, I want to ask you too. It doesn't seem like you know, the situation on the two different Great Whites is such a big deal anymore, in the sense that I think, you know, I mean, the other Great White, they like just last year, they recently they got another, they fired a singer to replace Jack, and they got another singer in the band. But it seems like the two bands have been able to kind of coexist, which I think is a cool thing.
I don't know if it's so much we're coexisting. That makes it sound as though we're
I guess
acknowledging each other. But
I guess what I'm saying is, like, I know from my perspective, honestly, I'm aware there's two Great Whites, but like when I think of Great White, I think of Jack Russell. He's a frontman. He's a guy who wrote most of it. And it's oddly enough, I think a lot more people are aware of even the band you're in, for the simple fact, not only do they have Jack Russell, but let's be honest, you guys have had a more stable lineup than other bands, So I think that's kind of helping you guys in a way.
Yeah, I think it, maybe it all for Jack and
it's all worked
his
out for
version.
Yeah.
It did turn a corner when he and I decided to work together again. And I know that the other guys were very much against Jack and I working together. In fact, they initiated a lawsuit against me to try to keep me from doing it.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah, it was. They threatened to do that, and which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day,
it's all worked out.
Jack's the voice, and he's done a good job of keeping his voice in order. So
well, I'll tell you another.
We're still having fun.
Yeah. Before we wrap this up, I'll tell you another funny thing about. Tell you a story about Jack Russell. I've never met the man personally, but I've interviewed him a few times like this over phone. And I'll just say compared to other camp, like when the bands first split and Jack Russell went his way and they went their way, I wanted to kind of interview a guy from each band. I wasn't gonna just okay. What do you have to say? What do you have to say? And the other camp right away. Nope, not even any of the guys like you got back to me. They had their publicist, which is fine. And then the publicist wanted to know, well, how many hits does your website get? Because we only do interviews with the big websites. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine, that's cool. And then the first time I ever talked to Jack, he was just so friendly, down to earth on the phone. And he told him, and I kind of told him a story. He told him, man, he goes, I'm available for my fans. Anytime you want to interview me, here's my number. You drop me a line. And I thought that's just such a friendly, down to earth guy,
Well, at the end of the day, it's about us reaching out and connecting with people. Yeah. And the truth is that there really is no definitive way to do that anymore.
Yeah.
They're Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone's not knocking on their door or our door, quite frankly, or my door. So if anybody wants to chat with me about what I do with Jack or my band Shadow and the Thrill, then that's kind of and we get out there and we do it and we hang and we always hang with fans after shows and we try to be accessible. And that's the name of the game these days.
Yeah, that's such a great story because I'll tell you my attitude from my perspective is exactly the same. Whereas like I always dig when I interview bands and you have sometimes where they'll say, hey, do you mind if I bring my bandmate on the phone? He wants to take part in the interview. Oh, that's cool. Okay, then, because I always believe, a lot of people, they want to talk to the lead singer or whatever, but I believe, not just the lead singer, but like talking to a guy like Tony Montanna, you bring something into the band. You bring your influence or whatever you bring to the band. So everybody, my kind of way of thinking, everybody's got a story to tell, so let them tell their story.
For sure. We're all parts of the puzzle, man.
Yeah. Well, Tony, I will thank you once again for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this.
Thank you for putting up with the change in schedule. And
things happen.
By all means, I hope everybody that listens, obviously, there's the new Jack Russell's Great White, Once Bitten, Acoustical Bites.
Yeah.
There's my album with Shadow and the Thrill. It's called Sugar Bowl. That's available through our website, shadowandthethrill.com. And my first solo album has been re-released on Cleopatra.
Now, is that currently available, Tony?
Shuffle. That's out. And,
okay.
You can get that through Cleopatra Records.
Wow.
So there's plenty of stuff out there to keep you busy during this downtime.
And now let me ask you, Tony, in reference to the solo album that was just reissued, is that like an instrumental thing? Are you doing your lead singing on there as well?
Tombstone Shuffle is a full-on album with songs, and I'm singing, playing guitar, and playing bass, and on that as well. So, and I did that with my old friend out here. His name's Bryant Markovich. He's an amazing drummer and friend from way back. So, obviously, it's it's produced and. It was released in 2000, produced in the late 90s. So it has, it sounds like that, but it's fun. There's some gems on there. But I would, obviously help people get out there, get on my webpage, on my Facebook pages, and follow and listen.
But you know the cool stuff, and that's why I got to tell people Cleopatra is, I think, a great little label for doing stuff like that because even though you said it came out 2000 something, you know what? Like I was saying earlier, people are maybe just discovering it for the first time. Aren't even aware you put it out, or they might think it's a new album altogether. But in any event, it's a great thing for your fans to say, "Oh, this is something I didn't know he had out there. Okay, I'll check it out."
It's cool, actually. I mean, it's been out since then,
yeah.
And it's been out on a French label, a European label, a Japanese label, and every time I play a show with Jack, people are always bringing that album to me, and at the end, and I'm always surprised, like, really, wow, man, that's cool. I'm glad people, got it, and it spoke to them. So,
well, Tony, it was real fun talking to you again today, especially about Led Zeppelin 3, and hearing what you thought about that. And I will tell you, when I get a chance to check out the whole entire acoustic album, maybe I'll reach out to you again and we can talk specifically about that, just to spread a little more love Jack Russell's Great White's way, and help you guys promote that a little bit. For now, it's been great talking to you, and I'll be in touch.
Sounds good, man.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right, bud. Thanks. See ya.